Today we're going to make a classic dish from southern Italy, cavatelli pasta with broccoli, rabe, and sausage. We have our sausage, so here's our broccoli rabe, here's our sausage. We have a little bit of red pepper flakes, we have some garlic, we have some Pecorino Romano cheese, which is delicious, has a real sharp flavor to it, some salt, and some olive oil. And then, of course, we have our pasta. So we made our pasta fresh today. So we're working with Cavatelli, and these are really tasty, and they have grooves, so they catch the sauce really well. Being homemade with semolina and water, they're very much like a packaged product, but they'll cook through faster. So if you're working with a cavatelli that's fresh like I am, it's going to take about 6 minutes in the boiling water. But if you're working with a dried pasta, like a box pasta, maybe about 10 minutes to boil. So your garlic, you want to take that sort of dark, hard part off the bottom. Okay? Cut that off. Put the knife on top and just smack it. Okay? There we go. And then the peel comes right off. So again, off with that little bottom end, smack, and it comes right off. You can do kale the same ways we're doing the broccoli rabe. You can do arugula. You can pretty much swap in any kind of greens that you like. Tuscan kale is especially good. So if you can get your hands on Tuscan kale, it's a little bit milder. The leaves are longer and thinner. They're very, very dark. They're not quite as curly. They have a sort of a central rib that you want to get rid of, but other than that, it's very easy prep. They're easy to wash. They're very tasty. So that's a really nice option. Swiss chard, too, is great for this dish. Okay, so our garlic is minced. Set it aside. Here, we can see the broccoli rabe has some floured tops, which is great. It has some very thick stems. So we don't want those thick stems. The thick stems are not good. They're very bitter. So you want to kind of pluck through your broccoli rabe, getting rid of the really tough stems. Okay? We're going to wash all this after. These stems really don't taste great in a stock, so there's not much you can do in terms of recycling. Okay? You might find it easier to work with a paring knife. The sort of thinner stems are just fine, not a problem. But the really thick stems you don't want to be eating because they really are bitter, okay? So just using a paring knife to kind of separate the really thick parts from the thinner parts. And the trick to making the broccoli rabe less bitter is actually boiling it for a good 15 to 20 minutes, which sounds insane, but makes a big, big difference in terms of flavor. Now, it's going to almost look like a puree by the time that we serve it. And that's okay. That's how I want it. So it's not going to be perky and happy and, you know, vibrant, anything like that. It's going to be pretty much mushing up into almost a puree. And that's really how I like it, almost falling apart. Let's give these a little chop. It's going to make it so that when you eat the dish, you have pieces of broccoli rabe here and there, as opposed to them clumping quite as much. So, good idea to chop these up. You don't have to. You could just skip on that step, but it's a good idea to kind of chop them up coarsely. And then we're going to take a strainer, and we want to wash these nicely. So take your time. So we have our pot of boiling water. We're going to season it with some salt. Okay. We're going to put our broccoli rabe in. And then we're going to push to submerge it. Make sure that we have it fully submerged. Okay. Okay. And we can pretty much ignore this for the next maybe 10 minutes or so, not even think about it. Okay, it's going to do its own thing. So now we're going to think about our sausage. So we want to put our skillet on. Our skillet, you should choose one which is big enough to accommodate the pasta and the sausage later. So you want it to be big enough that you can saute in it. So that's really important. So we don't have to wait until it's super hot because in fact, it's better if you don't overheat the pan before you add the sausage. You don't want the sausage to burn. You want to cook it gently. So in goes our oil. At this point, you're going to add your sausage. So I can just kind of dice it up with the back of the spoon. Nice and easy. The goal is eventually to make this quite small. So it's going to be a lot of kind of stirring and using the spoon to make it little pieces. You don't want to have huge chunks of sausage in this dish, okay? So take a moment, really kind of break it down with the tip of the spoon. So let's take our time getting that sausage nice. Okay. Want to get that nice, small pieces, browned nicely. So you're going to want to monitor the heat. Let's monitor that heat. We've added our garlic to the pan, and now we want to check on how the sausage is cooking. It's getting nice and brown. If your sausage has a lot of fat to it and you want to tip some out, you certainly can. Okay, I'm going to do that. You can see here, there's a lot of clear fat that's kind of collected. I don't really feel the need to eat that, so I'm going to get rid of it. I prefer the taste of really good extra virgin olive oil, so I don't need that fat. I'm going to be taking this right out, getting rid of it. So here we go. I'm going to put my pasta in the boiling water. The purpose of cooking the pasta with the broccoli rabe is twofold. All the flavors meld together, which is very important. But other than that, the starch in the cooking water is going to make that broccoli rabe much more mellow. Pasta water that we're going to be keeping is just in case that we need to thin out our sauce a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to set some aside now. Perfect. And like I said, really strain quite well because the broccoli rabe is like a sponge and it's crazy how much water it absorbs and it holds on to, even when you really drain it. Okay. What I like to do sometimes is just kind of strain it right on top of a pot that I was cooking it in so that you actually can retain some of that pasta water underneath, okay? So now we're going to saute that for about a minute. And if you feel like it's sticking, that pasta water comes in handy. Try to make it so that the broccoli rabe kind of goes everywhere. It doesn't all stay in one area. A little more pasta water. It smells really good. You want those flavors to meld. This is really, we call this trascinare in Italian, which means to drag. So you want to drag the pasta through the sausage with the broccoli rabe, all the flavors building together. If you want a little more pasta water, go ahead. You want to form kind of like not a soupy base, but you want some liquid in that because otherwise it's just going to taste real dry and real bland. Okay? Off the heat, I like to add my oil and my cheese. So add some cheese. Add some of the olive oil. Give it a little stir. And you want it to have, you see how there's some beautiful liquid pooling on the bottom? This is not a mistake, guys. You want some of that liquid pooling in the bottom because it's going to be absorbed by the pasta pretty quickly. So leave it with those yummy little pockets of juice. Believe me, it'll end up being absorbed by the pasta as it sits even 1 minute. So enjoy. Buon appetito.